Recently I've been testing two high-end XC race shoes, so I'm going to start with the Specialized. The S-Works has been around in various forms for quite a long time now. This is their latest model. It's nice and light, so it weighs around 400 grams. That's with Shimano cleats in size 45. Starting with the basic features, we've got a very nice boa closure system. Again, been around for a long time, works really well. You just twist it one way to tighten it, twist it the other way to loosen it off. The great thing about this is the fact that you can adjust it mid-ride, so if you need to crank it for a sprint or loosen it off because your feet are getting hot or anything like that, it's really easy to do with the boa, just like that. Being a race shoe, as you'd expect, the carbon sole is basically totally unyielding. There is no way you're going to be losing any energy through flexing the shoe. That thing is super solid. The outer has got a kind of matte finish and there's very little seams on it, so it's quite easy to clean and keep clean, and it doesn't collect, I've found it doesn't kind of collect much mud when you're riding in muddy conditions. There's not a lot of stitching or bits sticking out of the shoe where mud can acquire. A final neat feature I liked on the outside of the shoe is these rubber protectors along the toe. There's also one on the heel just there. They're quite subtle, but they work really well just to protect either your heel from your crank or from rock strikes and stuff like that. Fit is obviously something that's very rider specific. What works well for one person won't work well for someone else, but I found these fit my feet really well. They're a kind of, I class them as like a mid fit. They're not quite as wide as some shoes, and they're not as narrow as some of the kind of super narrow shoes that come out. So they kind of sit somewhere in the middle. The kind of last on the bottom of the shoe it's fairly flat, but there's good arch support on the inside. So they give, again, a very firm, supportive feel when you ride. Another cool thing about the fit is the heel cup. It's really deep. I've got weird feet. They're kind of really wide at the end, and then my ankles are really skinny. So I often find it's tough to get shoes that will fit me in the forefoot, but then also are tight enough to hold my skinny heels and ankles. But with these, they held it great, and I had no heel slippage at all. So again, really solid, secure fit. So moving on to the sole of the shoe. The thing I really liked about this shoe is the fact that it's got quite a wide, stable footbed. I've used a lot of XC race shoes in the past, and I immediately noticed with these that they're really nice to walk in. Although you don't want to be doing a lot of walking, if you slip or if you fall or if you've got to walk somewhere, going to work, commuting, stuff like that, they're really nice to walk in. Another thing which I think is really important is that piece of gripper there. When you're racing or when you're riding hard, quite often you can slip, you become unclipped. The first thing that's going to come into contact with the pedal is this middle bit here. If it's just bare carbon there, it's very easy for your foot to slip straight away like that. But just with that little bit of rubber, it can really help with keeping you on your bike and keeping you in control. If you're just going through a rocky section, your foot clips by accident, that will keep you stable there. But there are two major problems with this tread, which I'd say. First is the fact that it isn't replaceable. So, very expensive shoe. It retails for around £250 in the UK. None of these parts can be replaced. So once that wears out, shoes are, you can't use them anymore. Let's say you had them for a year, you could find if you were walking to work, you're doing a bit of commuting and walking to your office in them, you might find that wears out fairly quickly, and then you've spent all that money on a high-end shoe and you can't do anything to keep it on the trails as such. The second problem is, and I can't necessarily vouch for this, but a colleague can, is that when you're racing cyclocross in deep mud and stuff like that, they aren't the grippiest of shoes. They do come with deeper metal studs, big silver studs. They're still not very grippy, so the tread isn't, I don't know if you can see there, but the tread isn't really deep, so you're not going to get much purchase in deep mud when you're running during cyclocross. Sidi have been in the shoe game for a long time, and this shoe is proved at the highest level. Both Julian Absalon and Nina Schurter ride this shoe, so it's used by the best cross-country riders on the planet. It's a little bit heavier than the Specialized, but not by much, only by 12 grams. So this is 412 grams for a size 45 with the cleats in. The wire retention system is fairly similar to the Specialized, but a little bit different in one way, because you have to push that bit down and then twist to activate them. and then they lock afterwards. So it's a bit harder to adjust it on the fly because you're going to have to press that, fiddle around, find your hands and press it down again. That being said, it is quite a kind of positive feeling click, and they're really nice to dial in, and you can kind of crank them pretty hard before you feel like they're becoming uncomfortable. I'd say the outer has a slightly more premium feel to it than the Specialized. It's kind of nice and shiny, so it's easy to clean. There's a real good heel protector there, so there's no way you're going to damage the heel of the shoe on your crank arm or again with rocks or anything like that. Inside the shoe, again, I'd say it has a slightly kind of more premium and plush feel than the Specialized. There's quite a bit more softer padding on the heel. There's no kind of arch support built inside the shoe. That being said, Sidi has quite a kind of sculpted last, so you do actually get quite a bit of arch support just from the kind of shape of the shoe. It feels like your toes kick up a little bit more than the Specialized, so it's not a good or a bad thing, but it's just something worth considering when you're thinking about the fit of the shoe. And much like the Specialized, it has a really deep heel cup, so I had no problems with my heel slipping. Super secure, all your power is going straight to those pedals. If you do find that you've got a bit of heel slippage with this shoe, there's a cool little adjustable heel feature just here. 2 little screws that you can tighten up, and that just pulls the heel a little bit tighter. One slight thing I did find with the Sidis, and I'm not quite sure why this is, but I think it's because of where the boa laces finish on the front of the foot, is that my toes would, no matter how tight I had the shoe, my toes would always just come up a little bit. I don't think I was losing power, but it didn't feel quite as secure as the Specialized shoes. I think that maybe just that the boa laces want to come down maybe just a little bit further, so they're just clamping down on the end of your toes. I think maybe they're just a little bit too far up for the size of my feet. So what are they like to ride in? Well, just like the Specialized, super stiff sole. There's no way you're going to be losing any power through that. They're really nice to ride in, but there is one important consideration on the sole which I think Sidi have kind of dropped the ball on a bit, is that there's no rubber protection there. And like I was saying about the Specialized, is that if you're racing and you unclip by accident, or at the start when you go to clip in and you miss a pedal, first thing you hit is that carbon sole, and it's just like ice, and your foot just slips off straight away. It's the same if you look around the outside of the sole again, there's not much rubber protection, so all that's going to be exposed to rock strikes, and if you have to walk in the shoe, if you're out on an epic ride or anything like that, all that's going to be exposed, so it'll wear out a bit quicker. The plus though to these shoes is that all the bits on the sole are replaceable, so when they wear out, buy some new ones. Same goes with the boa, same goes with the strap here and bits on the heel cup as well. So let's say you do wear these bits out, at least they're going to be replaceable. There's also this bit here which you can pull just to make it a little bit tighter, so if you find you've got quite narrow feet and the strap needs to come across quite far, just pull that in. I use that a little bit, so that's quite handy. One thing I did find is that if you pull it down quite far, the excess strap sort of sticks out a bit on the side of the shoe, and you can catch that a little bit on your crank arm. I haven't cut them off yet because I've still kind of experimented with how tight I want them, but I suspect if I was going to race in these shoes, or when I race in these shoes, that I'll be chopping that off just to make sure I'm not going to catch it on anything. Walking in them in the mud and stuff like that, it looks like it wouldn't be that grippy because of all the carbon, but they're actually not too bad because they're quite sharp and they sit quite deep, so there's a fair bit of grip there. It's not necessarily a kind of a cyclocross shoe, but it definitely, there's a bit of grip there for if you need to walk or run in the mud. So if I was going to spend my own money, and as they're very premium shoes, it's going to be a lot of money. It's a difficult choice because I really like the Sidis. You know, they look nice, everything's replaceable, which is something I think is really cool. But I'm probably going to have to go with the Specialized because it's all down to the sole. You need that bit of grip there when you're racing. You clip in a bit easier, and that's very important to me being a racer. So yeah, for me, Specialized is the way to go.